Guys, Vince Ready here, and welcome to, I guess, my review or just thoughts and or just me talking about, just nostalgic talk of Klonoa. Klonoa is a game series that is a platformer involving puzzles, a good amount of puzzles. It takes a lot. I remember the reason why I didn't really kind of like pass up with these games is because I played them back in 2005. I was probably still an infant that time. I'm not sure, but while I was being cradled by my pops as I play on the PS2, Klonoa on the PS2 was one of my first Klonoa games being introduced, and also I never touched the first Klonoa until a few months ago with Duck Station. I pretty much, I finished it. And also I finished, and it took me a long time because when I discovered the PS2 emulator, I was like, I really want to go back to Klonoa. The first Klonoa that I played. And what struck me to come back to Klonoa, I mean, this is kind of like the thing, especially I'm doing a little timestamp, so I'm jumping back and forth with this. Um, Klonoa, I mean, was also released on the Switch, and it was a Klonoa series. It was a remaster of the Klonoa series. Even though that Nintendo already did that with the Wii, this one involves the authentic Klonoa, revamped, but without the whole talking. Because that's the one thing in Klonoa in the Wii that didn't really strike well was the voice acting, which and thank goodness they didn't have the voices for this one. And I played the demo on the Switch, I got it from the eShop, and this was like a year ago. And it made me realize, man, I kind of want to play the other Klonoas. And of course I discovered emulation at that time. And yeah, I finished the two games. And let me tell you, it was a nostalgic ride, I would say. I feel like, the first Klonoa, being the one in the PS1, was actually a quicker finish than what I had to actually endured when I played it on the PS2, because it took me months to actually get to the PS2 because there was just a whole bunch of other games that I want to play and review and stuff like that. And yeah, pretty much finally I got to actually finishing Klonoa 2, or Klonoa the Lunatena, something like that. I just call it Klonoa 2. Klonoa 1 being the Phantom something, and also Klonoa 2 being the one in the PS2. I either call it Klonoa 2 or or the Klonoa in PS2 or something like that. But for simple facts, Klonoa 1 and 2, pretty much, and it's kind of in a perfect spot because the first Klonoa was released in the PS1 and the next one was released in the PS2. So it adds to the numbers more better that way. The moment I jumped in the game, especially the second one, is like this nostalgic of just like coming back from Blockbuster and just witnessing the game firsthand, and this very dreamy feel when I played the game. I mean, that carnival scene that I had when I first played it, like way back then, I still remember those memories. I still remember when my parents were working at an office and I have to be there because they don't want to pay for no babysitter. And I was like in a storage somewhere playing the game because that's where they put the TV. And also I can be loud mostly sometimes, and I can be all over the place. So they put me in there, and like in a storage inside the office where they had snacks and also like TVs. And, I remember this small TV that was playing a bunch of PS2 GameCube games. And yeah, Klonoa was like one of the games that I remember. I mean, there was a bunch of other games that I remember playing the storage. Like when they had put a PC in there, I remember Enduring Game Tap, if anyone's old enough to remember that. And also, what is it? Like some of the Tycoon games, like Mall Tycoon, Roller Coaster Tycoon, all the series. And man, the nostalgia of some of these games sometimes, I just can't forget about, all this, momentum that I remembered, like Double Kart, Mario Kart with the double dash. That was a game that I played relentlessly back then, and also Luigi's Mansion, and also there wasn't much PS2 games. Like Hooper was definitely one of them, and also Ratchet and Clank. But one of the few ones that I own was the Klonoa series, and this was a series that is a staple of my childhood growing up because of just how much I love the like the world building surrounding Klonoa, even though I don't know much about it. I just like the vibration, and also just how it, like how much I like, either like, the whole furry characters, because that's the same thing with me with Sonic back then, is that I like, a Sonic. I like these furry characters, and then Klonoa seems to move that for me growing up, even though I don't consider myself a furry at all. But man, Klonoa was one of the series that I never thought would actually steal me away from Sonic, because I was a huge Sonic fanatic way back then. And Klonoa was just like, I don't know, like I still remember the memories. I remember the Game Boy games that I had played in the Game Boy Advance, and also I that's kind of like, I thought Klonoa on the PS2 was kind of like the first of the series, instead of me, thinking that there was like a second one. But that's like that was like before the internet and stuff like that, discovering all this. Nobody was a fan of Klonoa. I was kind of like in my own world with Klonoa. Like when I reached to the castle or something, that was like, a magical, like, kind of sense of just like this, my first experience with like a Final Fantasy setting style, almost like how it just like, dives me right into the amount of like, nostalgia that I had from looking at the prince and trying to save, trying to save like either the world or something. I still don't understand the whole plot points. I can't give you a story to save my life about the Klonoa games. It's just so nostalgic to the point where I care about the world and the visuals more than whatever is happening at all. I guarantee it's Klonoa, and I'm just imagining like Klonoa probably woke up. It was like trying to enjoy his day, and then, well, all it happens to save the world. Even though this feels like a continuation or something from the first series, being the first Klonoa, but the second one, it just all happens to like, oh, it just feels like, yeah, we're continuing from other stories or something. Like, I guess that one enemy, a darker character with the two cat, like, antagonist or something like that. I really can't tell you like what is the story deal, and maybe my focus is kind of blur because there's a freaking lawnmower outside, just like I don't know what's up with these. Like there will be like 3 to 5 hours of people lawn mowing just nonstop out there. So here I am recording this, trying to get the flow going. But let me tell you, there's gonna be some hiccups because all I can hear is the zzz and stuff like that. Like, are they coming this side? Like, what's going on that side? Like, it's insane. But man, it's just that the Klonoa on when I saw it on the Switch and I played the demo, got me that hunger for continuing Klonoa and finishing it. And a lot of games, a lot of times, especially in the PS2, like, it's already hard enough to actually finish the Metal Gear Solid games. And me trying to finish Klonoa is like another, I guess, challenge in a sense where I tried my best. I tried to actually try to finish. I mean, the first one was okay. The first Klonoa was a breeze. And a little quick review of that game itself. I love the puzzle mechanics. I love how it flows, and having save states really does the job very well. Like, I just like, especially the emotional moments in that game went well. Like, especially, what happened to the grandfather, and also like, or Klonoa's grandfather, and also like the ending itself. Like, just each, like, a position of that game, and it's, despite its graphics and everything, it felt like it started the series so well, to the point where, a second one has to be made, at least in the same system, but it's released in a different system. And this different one, the second, Klonoa, I just have so much memories. Like, one that is such a blur, because I thought Klonoa was going to be in the Dreamcast, but I guess it's not. But I sort of remembered it being the Dreamcast, and maybe it wasn't, but I remember there was this like place. I don't know what it is. It was like some kind of like electronics, like circus or something. It was so weird, and it was like long time ago. I'm talking about when I was like probably 8 years old and running around the place. Like, they had like this TV setup or something, like one of those things that you see in GameStop, where you can play the game. They have like a freaking PS4 or a Switch or a PS5 hanging around there, so you can try out the games, try out the demos. They had that in this particular store. Now, from what I remembered, it's so weird because I never been to an electronics store that actually has two floors. Like it's just like a jungle almost. I feel like there was a slide as well. There was like these different stairs and a slide. It was literally like the jungle, if you know what that is, or like Target, except it was like it was like all electronics. It was all games. It was so unknown. Maybe it was Circuit City, if anyone's old enough to remember that. But I remember playing Klonoa in the demo gaming, like around on the second floor on the TV as I was up there, and I was in like just mesmerized of just like the graphics, and I was specifically playing the level of Klonoa riding on the board, which is the where he like rides on the board and goes wakeboarding or something like that down a hill or down a water park or something like that. That's what I remembered, and it was nostalgia. It was like something that I still remembered, and it was like something that I probably will never forget. I mean, it was that, and also Sonic Adventure XD. Like that was the two games that I remember going to that particular freaking Circuit City Fries Electronics or whatever electronics. Lord knows what it is. It is, oh God, it was such a long time ago, because anything before I was 10, I probably forgot a good amount of stuff, even though like I tend to play later, like, when I was in the office and my parents were working. Like this is a game series it's still very prevalent to me, because whenever I look at it, whenever I look at his design, Klonoa's design, I'm just like, man, what will he look like if he was an adult? I feel like there should be an adult Klonoa. I feel like this should have like the same amount of series like Sonic has, or at least have a collaboration with Sonic. But it didn't. It was part of Namco, not part of Sega, and it just like it carries that nostalgia and remembrance of me throughout all my years. And I wish there was another Klonoa game. I wish there was something more, because it is such an underrated series where it doesn't go anywhere. Like I feel like there's so many amazing mechanics to it. Instead, you just get like remasters and remakes, of the visuals, and it looks nice, especially on the Switch. But man, I wish there was another like Klonoa game. It's kind of crazy how this was released only in PlayStation, but I guess later on Nintendo, like, it happens to release, the other games as well. It's kind of like the same thing with Crash. Like, how did Crash end up in Nintendo's, like, Nintendo's library? I don't know. But for many of these games as well, like PlayStation has a lot of gold, a lot of stuff that could have been released. Like I feel like that's probably for the same for a lot of people that play like Legend of Dragoon back then, even though I never played it, but I heard about it. That's kind of like the same effect of me when it comes down to Metal Gear, is that they're just like, they want another one. They dream of another one for sure. And this is kind of like one of my same, peaks within Klonoa. Even though there's like a continuation probably within the Game Boy Advance games, which, I'm not really putting that, but I'm just putting this particularly because this is about the Phantasy Reverie series, where it's the games that I kind of like grew up the most, because it is pure nostalgia, at least for me, from what I witnessed playing these games. Because I mean, there's a lot like, moments, I guess, a lot of us like to come back to our childhoods and just have a remembrance of those. This is one of those games. The whole anime aspect of furriness that is this game kind of like just breathing, like just sort of makes me cuddly inside, and also made me old, because it makes me remember the olden times within these games of the Blockbuster days, and also just how much I enjoyed the gameplay. I feel like, it's like such an underrated series, but the whole the whole gameplay and everything that it affects, it's pretty spot on. Like I still remember the puzzles doing these games. And also, as I can, finish it now, it felt like, almost like the same amount of length, like Witcher 3, because of how long I've been actually been stepping away from this, series as well. I feel like playing the first one is worth it before you play the second one, and definitely playing these two on original hardware, or at least original PS1 and PS2, before you actually play the remake or remade. And maybe that actually sort of like Nintendo Switch putting that remake or remade remaster of the series of the Fantasy Reverie series can actually, sort of like bloom more fans of the series as well, which I hope it's true. It's kind of like the same deal with Knights, which is another game or a series that I'm thinking of actually playing as well and seeing for myself, because I heard a little thing or two about the Knights, fandom in a sense, and before, the creators actually move into Balan Wonderland, which was a failure. But I heard a lot about that series as well. It's just that there's so many series where I feel like it's definitely inspired and sort of has some remembrance with Sonic. And that's kind of like, interesting aspect when you look at these games. It could have been inspired by Sonic, 100%. Klonoa definitely maybe has some specs that is behind within the Sonic fandom, and probably a person that created this is probably a fan of Sonic. I wouldn't know. I don't know much about the details because I'm talking about this in real time as I just finished and I'm continuing with other games, and also a freaking lawnmower is just racing my brain while I was buzzing outside. But I honestly this is a series that I wholeheartedly enjoy. It's just the memories, it's the nostalgia of it. There's some things that that I play. I don't have no nostalgia of Metal Gear Solid, and I'm playing it. But I can definitely tell that a lot of people that did play this, they're gonna, thinking about those moments. It's like enough to make a man cry. Knowing that, oh man, I remember this game. I remember this. And I guess that's Klonoa for me, even though I didn't cry. And also I'm playing it and I'm like, oh good, sweet. This is a part of that I'm gonna finish it. Because it feels like a power fantasy when I finished the first one. And definitely, the second one as well. But, there's two different, qualities to it. There's a part in Klonoa where the world just felt strange. It felt dark. And it goes to some dark places where child me, I remember that I was scared of. I was terrified. But, as I'm playing it, I remember man, I probably like this as well. And I liked it very much when I played through the scenes where it was kind of disturbing here and there. But also some parts where you just look at the atmosphere. It's the same thing with Jack and Daxter about the atmosphere of certain games within the PlayStation, where I'm looking at, I'm like, man, this area right here is something that I'll never forget for sure. And yeah, it's just one of those series where I just had to come back and share it to you guys as I'm alive. But yeah, if you try Klonoa, let me know what you think about it. For me, I'll still remember Klonoa's, yeah, just freaking sound effects that he makes, that can beat out Mario with his Yahoo's itself. But younger and I guess older, Klonoa, from what I see in the box art of this one, this is actually a fake image that I found in Google. I'm not sure if it's released really in PlayStation, but the thing is that it says PlayStation. Where though? Which one? Is it really PlayStation 1 or 2? How did the second one get in here? It's supposed to be in Switch. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you when I see Klonoa. Let me tell you, I introduced you to him. I hope I see adult Klonoa with guns. I'm kidding. Thank you guys for watching. One love and peace.